Hi, I'm Shaylin from Misophonia International, and I just want to talk to developers and web designers, UI designers, UX designers. I have personally run a web design company for 10 years now, and this is something I'm really passionate about, both from a technological standpoint and a misophonia standpoint. I want to tell developers to stop abusing animated features. Stop using JavaScript for everything. Stop adding loading spinners to every part of your page. Stop adding blinking. Stop making your animations so noxious that it's literally making people sick. And I understand that developers aren't thinking about conditions like misophonia, autism, sensory integration, and sensory processing. I understand that, but that doesn't mean it's not important. I think developers, honestly, at this point, care more about how something looks than how people actually interact with it and how it's actually impacting people. And one thing that I find really kind of disturbing from a developer standpoint is this is not just developers of your run-of-the-mill tiny little applications. This goes so deep that even using an Android phone or an Apple phone, you cannot turn off the blinking array or loading spinners system-wide anywhere. Luckily, on computer systems for both Mac and Windows, and I do believe at least Ubuntu, you can turn off some of these features. But by and large, even declaring user preferences of prefers reduced motion is absolutely useless for all practical applications for sensory populations. And what I mean by this is prefers reduced motion does almost absolutely nothing. It will turn off, maybe if you're lucky, a GIF. It might not even do that. If you search the internet for these developers, you can even find numerous forums where they're asking, how do I ignore this user preference? Which is even more disturbing because, first of all, the preference barely works. And second of all, developers are already trying to ignore this one thing that could help us. And it doesn't even work for the most part. Prefers reduced motion. I don't know what motion it's reducing because, in the most part, it doesn't do anything for loading the page. In Mozilla, I pretty much had to go deep into my settings to even be able to turn off this stupid loading bar at the top that was blinking. I've basically had to troll forums, try to find ways to get rid of things, and still, even with the most strict reduce motion settings, both at an operating system level in Windows and a browser level in either Mozilla or Chrome, nothing happens. The loading spinner is still there, elements still blink, nothing changes. It gets even worse when you're looking at closed applications, for example, desktop apps, because there's nothing you can do about those because the system-wide settings do nothing. And at least in a browser, you can add an extension to then hide elements, which is annoying and noxious to do, but you can at least, have some comfort in the fact that you can do that. And one extension I use is click to remove element. But even that in its very own settings has something that turns and twists. Luckily, prefers reduced motion does turn that off, but developers, just stop. We don't need motion for everything. If something actually needs to tell us something, you can use the word loading on the screen. You could use a red light, green light system where you have something that turns to a solid red or green. You can do things that aren't harmful to people, but you're actively either choosing not to, ignoring it, or you just simply don't know. And you know what? If you don't know, fine. But for the most part, design your UI to be as simple, uncomplex as possible. And for the love of God, if someone has prefers reduced motion enabled, honor that and do better at tagging elements to prefer reduced motion and getting rid of them. Because this is actually making people sick. This is harmful. And honestly, it's just how you be a good person, be a good developer. I'm sorry if I sound really passionate about this. This is something that is actually making my life a living hell as someone who has visual and vestibular issues. This is I'm getting migraines just from looking at regular pages that I have to look at. My email, things that are not avoidable. Prefers reduced motion needs to turn into no motion, and it needs to happen sooner than later.